Gonzales. I know you don't like that title, but you are. I mean, you still hold the collegiate wrestling takedown record since 1981. So congratulations on that. Yeah.
Thanks.
Olympian, world champion, World Cup champion. You went to Tbilisi in the Republic of Georgia, or when it was still part of the Soviet Union.
Right.
Yeah. From your time being an assistant coach at ASU, having coached at Santa Ana City College, and the sport of wrestling itself, how did it evolve for you? Like, or what do you see the evolution of wrestling since then till now?
Well, the wrestlers have gotten better, technique wise. The way they train, it's more down to a science. A lot more matches, publicity. When I was wrestling, it was just like, there was no, you just, even if you're tired, you just push through it. Just been everything was a mental toughness. Even how bad your body felt, how crappy it was, you were sore, you still just powered through it. Now it's kind of down to a science, and I see the wrestlers, getting better technique wise, training wise. They don't have to cut as much weight because of all these new rules of cutting weight. I mean, back then I was cutting 20 pounds, and it looked like death on a cracker, every time I made weight. And then we didn't have night like they do now. I think it's a 2-day tournament. They get to weigh in the night before. Back then it was a 3-day tournament, like the World Championships or any national competition. And if you made it to the first day, the second day, third day, you had to make weight, and it was scratch weight. You never had a pound allowance.
Oh, wow.
So that made it tough. I mean, after you've been cutting all that weight, and then you got to wrestle 2 hours, you're still feeling pretty lousy.
And you weighed in every single day?
Yes, as long as you. When I won the Tbilisi, it was a 3-day tournament, and I would say the first day, I won all my matches, and I would bounce up 12 pounds, and I'd run like all night through the city of Tbilisi, and then go to bed and still wake up, and I was still maybe a couple pounds over, or a kilo, because they will go by kilograms. And I'd be the last guy to make weight in that tournament, and the whole world's watching me jump roping and, trying to get the weight off. And, and especially on the last day of that tournament, I remember I was the only American, along with being the only foreigner, to make it to the last day. Wow. Because they invite a lot of other countries. It's almost like the World Championships. And I was the only foreigner to make it to the next day. And they're all the whole world's watching me making weight. Am I going to make it? And I would make it the last minute before they closed down the scales. I would make it. And nowadays they don't do that. I mean, I would say, even though the nowadays wrestlers have gotten their techniques gotten better, I would say they're not as mentally tough as we were back in those days. As far as all that stuff that we had to do.
Do you think American wrestling has slightly shifted more towards technique instead of just brute strength? Because every nationality has their own style in there.
Yes. I mean, back then when I wrestled, it was we had the learning all the technique, but I don't even know how to explain, because I kind of been out of the sport for a while, and I don't know. Maybe kids are starting to wrestle a little earlier than usual. Because I heard all these tournaments, kids, age group kids, 5, 6, 7, cadet. I don't know all the titles, but it's crazy. And I grew up the era when Dan Gable was the man, and he just out-trained, out-conditioned everybody. So we had that mentality. I don't think it's as much as it is nowadays. It's more down to the technique. I mean, you're still got to be in shape,
right.
But it's still a lot of that, it's gotten a lot more technical.
Right. And now let's go back even further. You grew up in East LA in Boylan Heights.
I was born in Boyle Heights. My parents were from East LA, in Boyle Heights area. I was born in East LA, but then we moved to Montebello, but it's kind of the outskirts of East LA, right.
And how did wrestling help you escape what was going on socially back then? Because East LA was it's still a tough place, but back then it was even,
right. Well, first of all, I had two parents. They knew, what was, what environment they grew up in. They didn't want me to be in it. They raised me, very with a stiff hand, and sometimes I got a little whipping here and there. I should say a lot of whippings. But back then it was okay. Right. I deserved it, and I'm glad they did. And and my dad and my parents, especially my dad, got me into sports, and that was the kind of thing to do to keep out of gangs. Right. They didn't want me to get in a gang. They didn't want me to get caught up in all the drug thing. So they were really, pushing me into sports. And then they raised me with a good hard work ethic, because I can remember, since I was the age of 7 or 8, my dad on Saturdays, I want to sleep in, because I went to school all week. He's getting me up at 5 to go help him work, and he says, I want you to go to college, so you don't have to do this. You don't have to work your butt off like I did, So I got a taste of what hard work was about. So when I got into wrestling, it was like, hey, this is easy compared to what my dad used to pull me through, right. As a little kid, right. So I wasn't afraid of the hard work, and I kind of loved it. I mean, I just, I loved the what wrestling had to offer. And so that was, that's how, and then I just surrounded myself with good people, especially wrestling people. And they kind of took me under the wing, especially 2 coaches that I had at East LA Junior College, because they used to have an open room on the weekdays for anyone can go in there and work out. And I was in high school, so I heard about it, and I'd go there. They kind of took me under the wing, and they kind of, told me, what, you want to be, you want to get a scholarship and get an education? You got to train at this, and maybe you'll get one and, become a good wrestler. And I listened to them and made it happen, they kind of saved my life along with my parents.
And then, well, that's phenomenal, because a lot of people don't have that 2 household influence anymore. Yeah,
that's a whole different subject now, the way, American society's going, coming along here,
And it seems that, we've lost that work ethic somewhere along the way.
At
least in some instances.
Well, this whole generation, totally, I don't, the video games, the kids, even my own kids, they come home, they want to just play on video games, and I grab that stuff, throw it, I'm about to get rid of it and get outside and play, like we did.
Right.
And, the kids nowadays just want that right away gratification without even working for something. And I try to instill that with my own kids, I'm not going to just give it to them. They got to work for it. And yeah, it's, I don't even know what to say about that. It's just, you see it on the media, you see it with even, celebrities, they think they're God, they're above, us average Joe Blows. And, and even I teach PE as a, these kids talk about, soccer players, basketball, they want to do this and that. But they don't know what went on to be that great in their sport. Even with me, they want to learn all these moves, but it's like, what? I had a hard backroom base of all this training, so you can see me and make it look easy. Same with basketball players and soccer players or baseball. Those guys train their butt off. Yeah. And a lot of these kids don't see that. They just see the glamour in it. And they want that right away without even training for it. Yeah.
Even artists are the same way, just continuously practicing their craft and drawing and painting and everything else.
Right, exactly. Musicians, same thing.
Yeah. And now you were able to transition from East LA City College to Cal State Bakersfield.
Okay.
And then you won not only the D2 national title, you went on to win D1 in a matter of weeks or less than 2 weeks.
Yeah, because the D2 tournament was probably the same dates as a D1 conference. Mm-hmm. So when we had our D2 national tournament, say the Big Ten or the Big Eight, their conference was going the same weekend as ours, and then 2 weeks later we had the D1 NCAA tournament. And back then, the D3 and the D2 wrestlers were able to go to the D1. Okay, now they don't have that anymore, which is, I think, is totally, it's a shame, But yeah, so I won, I won a D2 national title, and then two weeks later, I won a D1 national title. And so you kind of made it a little tougher. I mean, you're wrestling two national tournaments in 2 weeks, in less than 2 weeks.
And winning them both.
Right, yeah. Well, I won my junior year. I won the D2, and then I made it to the finals of D1, and I lost that match to G Mills. And then the following year, my senior year, I won the D2 again, and then I made it to the finals in the D1, and I won it. Right. Yeah.
How many people can sit there and say their senior year they won not only D1 but D2?
Well, nowadays they can't do it because they don't even get to go. I mean, it's sad. It's a sad fact, but it is what it is.
And there's a video of you wrestling a guy from Iowa, and Gable's screaming in the background the whole time. And roughly by the third period, he just gives up and is like, yeah, whatever.
Oh yeah, I think that's got to be Dan Glenn. Yeah. That's got to be Dan Glenn, and that was, I think it was the NCAA finals for me in 1980. Wow. Yeah.
And then from there, you go on and you make the Olympic team for '84. And did you tear your shoulder, or did you actually break?
No, I ruptured a bicep.
Oh, okay.
Okay, but that didn't really affect my it affected before the Olympic trials to make the team, and I was basically just wrestling with one arm, and I decided I want to get in the top 6. Okay, and then I was going to drop out of the tournament and then go to the final wrestle-offs to make the team. So at the Olympic trials, I lined up taking, I think, a 4th, and then and I just dropped out, and then just to give myself more recovery, healing time on my arm, and then I went to the trials, and I had to start, as a 4th place guy in the ladder, and just kind of, go 2 out of 3, and I made the team. Yeah, but in '84, my first match. And I mean, up to that point, I knew how to cut my weight. And if I was 10 pounds over that morning, I'd lose it. That's how I already knew what I can do. I knew my body. Well, what happened in the greco-roman team, there was a guy that didn't make weight, and he happened to be my same weight class, but he was in greco-roman. So apparently Gable, saw this, and so he was determined that everyone was going to be down to weight, especially me. And so, I got down to the weight the night before, and I kept it down, and that just sapped me. I mean, that just took the how do you say it, the energy, the strength out of me. And the next morning I got up, and I never felt this way before. I made weight, and then my first match, I draw the Yugoslavian, who eventually won the gold, and I lost him by a point. And I tell you, I was like running on empty. I should have just, Gable was my idol. He's the coach. I make weight, coach. No matter how many times I've done it my way and I knew what I could do, right. I did it his way, and it just kind of affected me. I think, if I would have done it my way and just, wake up the next morning, be like 5 over, 8 over, no problem. Make the weight. I still, I don't, keeping it down just, it just drains you. Yeah. And in the process of wrestling that first match, I did a move where I had to force it, and it was like a front headlock roll through, and the guy, he fought it, but I pulled it off. And his whole weight landed on my neck, and I heard like a crack, and I kept wrestling, because you sometimes you kind of people, you touch my neck or cracked it. Wrestled, I lost the match. I go back to the hotel, wrestle for my second match, fall asleep, wake up, and I'm in excruciating pain. I mean, if you were just to touch, I was just like screaming. And they called Gable, and he's rubbing my neck, and I'm just screaming like, don't touch it, but he's, just rubbing it out. And they put me in the sauna, kind of warm it up, and I knew something was wrong. I was, so anyway, I go out and wrestle, and I pinned this guy from England. And, I'm not saying, it just wasn't very, wasn't good. And then I wrestled a guy from India. And everyone kind of caught wind what was going on. And this guy from India, I wrestled him before. And, always either pinned him or beat him. he came out there and just put a collar type and just started snapping my head. And I was like, I just went down to the mat. I couldn't even fight it.
Right.
And he put a half and just cranked me over and pinned me, and I was just, that whole tournament in '84 was devastating to me. It's still one of my, saddest moments in my life, because, I've beaten most of those guys. At the time I was, they had me down predicting I was favored to win a gold. And, it was in my hometown. My whole family were there. I mean, I had relatives that never seen me wrestle, and they went there because, their cousin or their nephew was wrestling the tournament. And it was just a nightmare. Right. It was a nightmare. And so after the tournament, I went to the UCLA Medical Center. They did an x-ray. They didn't see any fracture in the neck. They said maybe I just stressed out, some neck muscles. But I found out like 20 years later when I went in for a shoulder surgery that the way my vertebra was it looked like three of the vertebrae were fused, and I have a curvature in my neck. Like if you see me, do you see my head kind of tilted to the right? Yeah, see that camera, folks? Yeah. Okay, is because back then they didn't have MRIs, so they didn't pick it up. So I just kind of got better and just had 4 more years more of wrestling, and it just healed that way, But I was saying when I went in for shoulder surgery, they did an x-ray and the doctor, everything, and that's when he kind of noticed it. He goes, "You broke your neck. Do you remember?" He goes, "Do you remember hurting?" I go, "Yeah, in '84 Olympics, I hurt it bad, but they did x-ray, they said they didn't break it." Well, apparently, back then they did MRIs, and so this is what they found out.
Wow. I'm happy you're still walking.
Oh, well, the doctor said I missed the bullet because the way the broke is the way a neck breaks when you get hung. And he says, you missed it by a quarter of an inch. A little more twist, you would have been dead.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, so.
Let's take a couple of steps back, making the U.S. Olympic team and having it be in your hometown. What level of significance did that have for you? You grew up in L.A., the Olympics were held in L.A., and now the entire family is watching you along with the rest of the world.
Well, that was, for anybody, that was like a dream come true. It's like, man, I have the opportunity, to wrestle in front of, my whole family and my fans in the United States and my hometown. I mean, yeah, it was bittersweet if I would have done well,
right.
But then I look on the other side of it, there was a lot of pressure on me, God, everyone out of the woodwork was calling me. Even, people that I hadn't talked to since I graduated from high school contacting me. "Hey, we're going to watch you go wrestle, Joel. Do you remember me? I was a high school classmate of yours." There was a lot of pressure. Right. I was just, I was a little intimidated by that too. So that's the other kind of the negative factor of, competing. Because it seemed like I always did better when the odds were against me. I was in a different country where you don't have the great facilities that the United States do in a wrestling room, like say Tbilisi, and I seem to do better when, I'm facing adversity, right. And here in LA, I had it made,
Now let's fast forward to Tbilisi real quick, and it's former communist country, Iron Curtain, all this stuff, Rocky IV is still big at this time, and everything that's going down. What does it feel like to go over when, having grown up with the whole Red Scare thing, better dead than red and everything else, and now you're over behind the Iron Curtain and you have to compete on their turf? What is that like as an American?
I never felt any animosity towards those people, I mean, I could tell you, yes, it's a big culture shock. I mean, it's like, you ever seen my students always call me a munchkin, and it's this Technicolor. Okay, put that in reverse.
Right.
Okay, we have beautiful colors. Everyone dresses. Then you get off the plane and Tbilisi, and it's like walking into a black and white movie. and everybody has these frowns, and the colors are either black, dark charcoal gray, or brown, and they're just, kind of robotic, looking, and just, it's just different. But, I never, like, I'm a product of my nation, so are they. They're a product of their nations, and how much their government influenced the way of thinking. After Tbilisi, we had a banquet, and we all got along. They weren't like standoffish. We were partying and drinking, trading stuff all the time. I would say the only people that I really came across that they kind of standoffish with the Iranians. But that's not all the time, because a lot of times they never showed up to the World Championships or the Olympics, and that's during the, that big, what do you call it?
The Iran-Iraq War.
Yeah. No. That was going on, but when they took over the U.S. Embassy.
Oh, the revolution?
Yeah. So, but, I never had any, how do you say it? Felt like, I was a little, scared, intimidated. I seemed to get along with them. Right. And besides, it was funny because they would always ask me, because I'm American or Mexican descent, and majority of the guys on the team were either white Anglo or Black American, and here's this kind of in between guy. Gonzales, okay, Chicano, or right. Mexican descent, and okay, I always had that attention factor, and it was in a friendly way.
Did you ever feel more American overseas than you did at home, especially growing up in the times where, especially in LA, there was that distinction between being Hispanic or Chicano and being Caucasian or African American or whatever else, because the tensions were high in the 60s and 70s.
Yeah, I grew up during the civil rights. I was born in 57. In fact, my mom was part of the Chicano power, movement. And I don't know, sometimes it's like, why do I always have to justify what if you're born in America and I'm born in America, we're Americans.
Right.
Okay. Yes, we come from no one's how do you call it, a true American unless you're from indigenous people of the United States, okay? And we're all immigrants. But, like, for example, I was in at East LA, because I don't know I went to OU for a year, okay? And there, okay, I can't tell how many fights I got into just because of my ethnicity. I always had to justify, or I show up to a party, oh, there's Paco from Mexico, or Jose, I'd get like, no, my name's Joe, and I'm from California, I'm not from Mexico, or, my name's not Paco, and it just kept, and I remember, we'd go all out, other wrestlers, and, we'd go to like a bar or whatever, or a fraternity party, and, they let everyone in, and they go, you're not coming in. Everyone's in except that wetback. Yeah, it was in 1976, 77 when I went to OU.
Wow.
And I was there for a year. And that was a kind of a life-changing, the way I looked at the United States, and then after that, it's just like, I kind of told myself, I don't have to put up with this crap.
Right.
This is ridiculous. I guess you could say third generation of, Mexican American. My whole family are veterans. My dad was a Korean vet. And I've had an uncle that was in the Battle of the Bulge. In World War II. All these. And so,
So it was your great-grandparents that migrated to the United States?
No, my great-grandparent, we don't really, My dad says his great grandfather was Zacatecas, Mexico, and on my mom's back then, probably Mexico owned it, and then it's like California, they put up the border, and the United States bought it. So these Mexicans, what do you want to do? You can go down Mexico, you can stay here. And I heard 93% of them became Americans because they want to stay here.
Yeah, same with Texas and everything else.
Yeah,
The border
yeah.
across them several times.
Yeah. So, it's besides the ratio issue, the size issue. Okay, it is what it is. But it's just made me, I don't know, kind of a better person. And just I love this country, but we still have a bunch of issues. I mean, I tell people, I love this country, but we're still one of the most racist and violent countries in the world. What are you gonna, I just have different, why do I have to fill out an application with all this list of ethnicities and other? Why can't I just put 2 lines, American or other? If I want to put other and say what I am, that's fine.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, my parents were immigrants, so it's always interesting to see, how people react to immigrants or people that have been here for generations and still treated like immigrants.
Well, the issue is like, this whole, these legals coming in and all this, and and you got all these people that are angry at them, or even people that come here legally but still haven't gotten the culture down or haven't assimilated yet. They're being put down, or being hated. And that I have an issue with that too. It's like, hey, we all we're all came from a different country. I mean, maybe part of my ancestry didn't, because I did an ancestry test, and I'm a third Native American.
Okay.
And then a third from the Mediterranean, and 12% from Northern Europe, and 10% Asian.
Yeah.
So hey, I'm from this country. Part of my, but yeah, it's just.
Well, I joke with my friends all the time. I'm just like, if anyone was 100% anything, we'd have like 25 arms and 16 eyes.
Oh yeah, yeah.
No one's 100% anything.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And now you have 2 sons.
Yes.
That are wrestling now, following in your footsteps, at least in the sport.
Yes, but I'm not. I don't push them. I just they don't want to come for a day. That's fine. I have them involved in other stuff. But I'd be tickled pink if they both took up wrestling. But right now one wants to play baseball, the other one wants to do soccer. But I still take them once a week here, and it's like, this is what you're gonna do. But we'll see.
Joe, for everyone that has a right to have an ego about their success in their sport, which you clearly have a right to have that, how come you guys end up being the most humble? I mean, you've won worlds, you've won the cups, you've won Tbilisi, you made it to the Olympics, and you still call yourself an average Joe.
Well, me personally, I didn't achieve my goal. I wanted to be an Olympic champion. Okay, I was an Olympic champion, because all up to that point, okay, all my stats, all the records I hold, that's great, but it's not what I wanted. That wasn't what I was training for. Okay, I wanted to be an Olympic champion, and I didn't accomplish that. So I feel like, I don't deserve to be like some, prima donna, cocky athlete. And then the losses I've had, it's humbling. It's humbling. You work your butt off, and then you go out and lose. It's very humbling. And the way I was raised, my parents told me, you know what? Oh, people like humble winners. They don't want these people that you're bragging this and that, because sometimes what goes around comes around. So, so I always, was kind of raised in that way, and I just don't like to be, put on this pedestal. If I can inspire somebody to do better than me or do what I did, great. I'm happy to do that or help them, whatever,
Right.
you know. But, you know, I put my pants on just like you, okay? I sleep just, you know, eat like you. I'm a regular Joe Blow, you know, human being that, you know, got into wrestling and, you know, decided, you know, I'm going to train, this is what I'm going to do for at least as long as I can as an athlete and dedicate my life to the sport and give them my best shot. Because you only live once. Who's could say, you know, you're going to make an Olympic team, or you only have this much span in your athletic career before you start, you know, you're not performing as well as you know, in your younger days. So, you know, you always got your whole life to get a job and get, you know, get married and live the average Joe life, you know. So I didn't want to do that. I wanted to take my chance. You take a chance on this stuff. You don't know. I did, and it didn't happen for me, you know. But, you know, along the way, I get valuable, you know, things from it. You know, my education, the travel, my character, you know, my humbleness, you know, you know, everything. My development of my personality, that hard work ethic. You know, in anything I do, I want to be the best husband. I want to be the best father. You know. You know, it all comes from I say what I learned in wrestling.
Now, see, a lot of people will forget that aspect of sport and the discipline that it creates in your everyday life. You didn't win or medal in the '84 Olympics in your hometown. What is the recovery process from that mentally? Because we already know physically you're strong enough to recover from that. But the mental breakdown of that, what comes next?
You know what? I don't think I recovered from it. I've learned how to deal with it. It's like a death of your family. My mother passed away. It was devastating, and I think about it. I think about her every day. But I've learned to go on and, you know, with my life and with wrestling. Like I said, that '84, that, you know, that whole nightmare.
Right.
You know, usually when the games come up, you know, sometimes I don't even want to watch it. You know, or I'll be driving home, you know, from work, and something would just in my head like, God, why did that happen? You know, my family was there. You know, what would my life be like if I want to go medal? Would I still be in coaching? Would I still want to be involved in wrestling a whole lot more than I am now? You know, would I be part of the national coaching staff? Would I be a head coach at a major university? I don't know. You know, it could have changed my life. I don't know. It's hard to say. But, you know, I have the scar of the memory of what happened, and it's healed. But every once in a while it itches, you know, and it kind of bothers me.
Kind of like when you have a knee injury and it gets cold and you'll start feeling the throbbing.
Yeah, you know. You know, I mean, you got like Jordan Burroughs, Olympic champion, and Gable, and the Brands, and, you know, the Schultz. You know, I wasn't at their level. I mean, those guys were all Olympic champions, world champions. It didn't happen for me. Right. You know, so I think that's why, you know, I'm kind of humble about it. It's like, you know, I don't know if I'm a living legend, you know, I'm not like those guys, you know.
But you still have some of the greatest records in the world.
Yeah.
And in NCAA. I mean, that's something to still be, you know, happy with yourself about, at least.
Yeah, I guess, but I don't dwell on it, you know. I don't even bring it up, you know. It's just, at the time you don't think about it. You just want to be. At the time, I want to be an NCAA champion. I can remember when I had, I guess, tied the record, and some, you know, wrestling interview came up, and how do you feel? And I go, what do you mean? Well, you just tied the winning record with no losses or ties, and if you win in the finals or you win the semis and finals, you're going to be holding the record. And I go, well, I guess that's great, but that's when I'm not here to hold a record. I want to be a national champion. I go, so we'll see, you know. And then I guess that's just kind of a little icing on the cake by holding the record, you know. And I guess the most takedowns.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it was 448 in one season.
Yeah, I think
You know, and now all of this has happened. I heard that you recently had a couple of surgeries. I mean, they fixed your shoulder. You know, like you said, you had a hip replacement surgery.
I had a hip replacement and I had ulnar nerve surgery.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And now I'm 60 years old, and now all these the wear and tear is catching up. I can feel it, and they're talking about, a shoulder replacement, and another on my other side get a hip replacement. I have all these arthritic problems, but it just comes with the sport, I guess, or enhances it. Maybe in 80 I start feeling this way instead of 60. But all the weight cutting and dehydrating and years of just beating on each other takes its toll.
I think Gina and I were joking about this once before. I said if I knew I was going to get all the injuries I got from wrestling, I would have stuck with swimming.
Yeah.
And now MMA wrestlers' big transition into going professional, whereas some had gone the pro wrestling route and the entertainment route like Kurt Angle. A lot of guys like Daniel Cormier have gone into mixed martial arts, and that's another avenue for wrestlers. What do you see happening to the sport of wrestling because of mixed martial arts?
Well, I see a positive and negative. Now that you see a lot of these ex-wrestlers going to MMA, it's kind of made, the wrestling sport kind of got popular, but I want to say, I don't know, for the kind of the wrong reasons, is because I'm going to wrestling because I'm going to be an MMA. And I've heard from a lot of these MMA experts that wrestling's a good base to go into MMA.
Right.
Okay. Here's the downside of it. A lot of these good college wrestlers, instead of continuing on for Olympic ambitions, they retire right out of college and go into MMA, and they're good wrestlers. If they kept wrestling, we'll have so much depth in each weight class, just make us, a better wrestling country.
Right.
And a lot of these wrestlers, and I don't blame, you can't blame them. You make money.
Right.
Okay? Who knows? If they had it offered back then, in my era when I was wrestling, I might do the same.
Right.
When you're a wrestler, it's a poor man's sport. I remember living in a 1-bedroom apartment with 7 guys, and we're just trying to make it because we had this dream of being Olympic champions. So, it's not a glamorous sport. It's the MMA has helped it, but also I think it's kind of not help it, because, now the wrestlers have an avenue to go into MMA instead of after college, I'm going to try for Olympics and you have more numbers. We have more numbers, you have more competition, and so, that's how I see it. Don't get me wrong, I like watching it, especially when there's wrestlers. See, that guy's a wrestler, he knows already how to work hard. People don't realize wrestling is a fighting sport. People don't realize it. It's a legal fight. And so
that we bought into the tournament to participate.
Right, exactly. And also, it's a academic sport. Okay, you got to go to college. You want to wrestle, or be an NCAA champion, and so a lot of these guys, you get an education out of it, and they go into MMA. Maybe they got a backup plan. Hey, if I don't make it big in the MMA, I got this degree in business. I go in business or whatever.
Right.
So that's what I see with this MMA and the wrestling. Randy's done it all. He's made the Olympic team, and you know what? He's what do you call it? Used up all his money in the wrestling world. Okay, so I need to make some more money. Make some money. I'm going to MMA, and he went in at an older age and was successful.
Right, first 2-division champion.
Right. So what does that tell you about? It makes wrestling look good.
He's just alone and everybody else.
Right. He's great.
Was it Oklahoma? I know that with some Japanese guys that had transitioned from judo to wrestling, or did I mishear that?
Yeah, I don't think that. Yeah, I went to Japan.
Oh, okay. That's
Okay, I went to Japan and I spent almost not quite a year there, training with two Olympic champions, a couple of world champions, and stayed with three different colleges. That kind of helped me develop my style of wrestling, and they were a big influence on my style of wrestling. And so, excuse me, that really and their philosophy is totally different. I mean, of course, in high school they do freestyle and greco-roman, whereas we're doing folk style, and then we got to change the whole set of rules of the way we wrestle, the way we approach, wrestling when we go into freestyle or international style.
right. Now, how do you think American style can benefit from international competition? Because the Russians have their style, the Iranians have theirs, the Koreans have theirs. You mentioned going to Japan, and the Japanese have their own style, and the Japanese were dominant at wrestling for quite a while as well. What do you think we can take as Americans? Because I look at us as like we should be the best country at soccer because we have Brazilians and Mexicans and Iranians and Chinese and everybody else that's migrated here that have played soccer internationally, and we could develop our own, blended style. And I could see the same for wrestling. What can we do by learning from these other nations to improve American wrestling?
Because Iowa has their style. Oklahoma State has their style. So we have, there's not like one base style for our country. We all come from different. Everyone's learning a different type of style, So which is kind of good and bad, I guess you could say. I mean, I don't have the power. Like if I was to wrestle Iowa style, I don't have the strength or power, but I have the speed and conditioning for sort of the Japanese style. So that kind of benefited me. And another thing too, and our forefathers in wrestling would probably kill me if they were still alive. But if we, and maybe I'm talking out of my butt about this because in the last World Championships, the United States won the world title. Okay, but I think if high school, college just was strictly freestyle, get rid of folk style, we would be a better wrestling power. Okay, because then we don't have to make this transition from folk style to freestyle. And some of our good collegiate wrestlers, they're terrible in freestyle. They're rolling around. They don't know like tilts and all, certain stuff. That's a little, you kind of learn in freestyle that you really don't learn in collegiate. So it's like you're making this transition, and I mean, who's to say? We might be a better country if they change our style. It's just strictly freestyle in the high school, in the grade age group level, college, and then we don't have to make that change.
Right.
But those guys in the grave would kill me if they were alive. Change folk style,
Right.
Yeah.
I would also like to see a little more Greco-Roman incorporated for the younger kids.
Oh yeah. Well, in Japan they have two teams, Greco and freestyle at the colleges, even in the high school. And I'm sure they have it in Europe, in Europe and all those other countries. I'm sure they do the same thing. So yeah.
And we had mentioned that your sons are wrestling, and you're hoping that they might follow in your footsteps, but if they don't, at least let them be successful in life. What was that discussion like with your wife sitting there and going, I'm going to put the boys in wrestling and just at least let them try it out? Because some others are very against combat sports, or even some fathers.
She was supportive. I mean, come on, she married me. She knew what you were getting into, and she's seen, some of the injuries I've talked about, and now these surgeries that I'm having, but it's like, that's the chance you take. I mean, they could just be doing something else. They're going to have the same injuries probably, or, later on in life, have some arthritis or have to get a joint replaced. But, she knows what wrestling has to offer with the humbleness, the hard work ethic, never quitting, never giving up, just keep pushing forward, just, until you achieve it, never quitting. So she kind of likes that aspect. So she didn't have no problem with my kids. My kids have a problem because, the little one, I could see him wrestling. The other one, he's a good athlete, but he doesn't like contact sports. Okay. And the little one he's not as athletic as the older one, but he likes, he'll just walk up to his big brother and slap him and just let's see what he's going to do. That type of mentality. He has that sort of like that kind of like killer instinct, where the other one's a little more, passive and, he just likes stuff that's not so much contact.
Right.
But who knows? They could change.
This is true.
Yeah.
Before I let you go, having been quote unquote an ethnic wrestler in the United States, what would you tell other kids who don't have a primarily wrestling background from their national origin that want to get into the sport? Because what should they look forward to and what they should try it out for?
So
let's play off the stereotypes. Like Iranians are known for soccer, wrestling, and taekwondo. Hispanics are primarily known for soccer and boxing or whatever. But wrestling isn't a primarily Hispanic sport or a French sport or an English sport. For those kids that don't have that national identity with wrestling that want to try the sport, what would you tell them to do?
Try it. Well, I'm just saying that, like, say that, the Asians that come here, and of course the Latinos, they're not a big race of people. Mm-hmm. So, what chance do you have playing pro football or basketball? Okay. If you're going to play soccer, how many of you are going to become pros? Mm-hmm. But you're small and you're probably, strong for your size, go out for wrestling. Wrestling's been, it's just about in every culture. Even the Aztecs and the Mayans had some sort of form of wrestling, in Africa, I've always, like, I teach in Santa Ana, so it's pretty big, Latino community, and they're all soccer. And I said, you know what? You guys need to go out for wrestling, okay? You'll be more successful in wrestling than you will. Because you're already street tough, okay? You guys, are pretty strong for your size, and it's an individual sport where, you can be the best player on a soccer team and still, your team's still going to lose,
right?
But when wrestling, it's just you. So you can decide your destiny, depending on how hard you want to train, and Mexicans good in boxing. Why can't they be good in wrestling? It's just a different type of fight.
Right.
I coach at Santa Ana, and they're still good. Those little guys are still, making a name for themselves on the mat.
Right. Now, are you coaching at Santa Ana High School, or are you coaching?
I was coaching at Santa Ana High School, and I pretty much retired once I had my first barn. I said, man, I pay my dues in coaching, and I had my kids in later on in life. So, I don't want to be spending Saturday in a gym while my kids are at home, and I'm missing out on their life as they're growing up. So, I made that decision, and I'm glad I did, and I might be stuck in a gym. If my kids are wrestling, then I got to go watch them, but that's fine.
Right.
Yeah.
And what is next for Joe Gonzales? You're a father, you were an Olympian, you were a national champion, when you retired from the sport, from competition, due to, injuries and age and whatever else that comes along with getting older. What's Joe Gonzales doing now as a father and as a human being?
I want to just be healthy and still I can to see my kids grow, pass on my legacy, citizens, Christians, and raise their families and just, you know, pass on the values and on to them and my wife, you know, together, you know. But, you know, that's what I want to see. You know, at this point, I just want to be the best father, best husband, best teacher, you know, spiritual person, just a good citizen, you know, be a quiet example, you know, let my actions do the talking instead of my mouth doing the talking, you know, at this point in my life, and just, you know, just enjoy life.
I dig it. Joe, thank you so very much for your time. I'm glad that I finally got to meet you face to face, and you know, it's been a fun evening.
Thank you. So will I be able to watch this, or how does this work?
Yeah, I'll send you the link.
Okay.